Greetings, Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, parents, faculty, and of course, the class of 2019. Yes, you can cheer. It is customary in my position to be congratulating you on your achievement. And you have all worked very hard. Some of you have made it look easy. Some of you have struggled. Some of you may have left and come back. Some of you have parents, either here or somewhere far away, thinking it is a miracle that you made it. But you all made it to this incredible day. But I find myself feeling, rather than congratulating you, the emotion that I feel more strongly is a sense of gratitude. And I have to say, I've spoken at other graduations, and it's palpably different. I feel that I need to thank you for being willing to take a risk, as has been said, to join in this incredible cutting-edge project to redefine what education looks like, to create a truly global education. People have talked about how wonderful it is to sit in the cafeteria late at night talking to people from 20 countries. But I got to imagine at times it was hard. That you felt insulted by something someone said, and they didn't even realize they'd insulted you. To be hurt, to hurt others, to fight. I can't imagine it was always easy. But to come together, to build bridges across so many cultures, to learn, to have empathy, to stretch your minds in incredible ways. Coming here, my husband and I came, my husband Alan is in the audience, and yeah, you can cheer for him. We've spent a couple of days here. We've talked to some students and faculty members, and just, we've had to stretch our minds just to understand what happens here, and I know I've only had a small taste. But the conversations, education is so much about conversation and what you learn from each other. And to have 10 students in a room and have 10 countries represented is a very different conversation than what most of the students around the world are having. This is a truly extraordinary place that has been created. And so I thank the students for being willing to participate in the creation of this amazing place. I thank you for coming and staying and creating. And of course, I thank the faculty and the trustees and all of the people who make this possible, and also the parents who, go ahead, you can cheer for parents. Who had to trust and in many cases send you far away, and the student speakers talked about the long distance relationships and all of the challenges that entails. And so the creation of this amazing space really comes down to all of you taking risks, putting in the effort, and being courageous. I want to share a story with you from being at the Olympics. When I was selected for the US team, I was the third-ranked one-legged woman in the United States in alpine skiing. Now that was a good thing because they only took 3 one-legged women on the US team. So after years of training, and I grew up in San Diego, California, where there's no snow, so I had to leave home to ski. So I moved to different places, I waited tables, I looked for sponsors. I had to work very hard. People say it's difficult to ski on one leg. It's really difficult to ski when your family has no money. So I had to work hard and be creative to make it possible, and I broke my leg at one point. I had many setbacks, but I finally made it to be on the US team going to the Paralympics in Innsbruck, Austria. I had my team uniform, my ticket to Innsbruck, and my mother came with me. It was the first time my mother had ever seen me in a ski race. We didn't have ski races in San Diego. She was a single mom and a school teacher, so she wasn't traveling around with me skiing. When she came to Innsbruck, it was the first time she would get to see me actually race. And I had no thought of winning. If you're the third-ranked woman in the US, no one thinks you're going to beat your own team members, never mind anyone else. But I had trained all summer on a glacier. I had gotten very strong, and I had trained with two-legged skiers and just really pushed myself to raise the bar. So when I finished the first run of the slalom race, the slalom is the tight turns around the red and blue poles. When I finished the first run of the first race, the times were posted, and my time was #1 in the world. It was a complete upset. But to win a medal, it takes 2 runs. You have to go back and do it again. Now, I don't know how many ski racers or skiers we have in Abu Dhabi. How many skiers do we have here? Few. So those of you who ski may realize that the second run is never like the first. Because after the first run, the snow is all chewed up. The course is destroyed. So they have to set a new course that is entirely different. So as I'm waiting for the second run, I'm thinking, I'm in first place. I'm going to take home the gold medal. This is incredible, beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm standing there waiting. A few other women go down before me. And they report back up to the top of the hill that they're crashing. On this new course, there's this dangerous icy spot. And people are falling. Everybody's skiing on one leg. You try to hold on, but they fall down. So I'm at the top thinking, I just have to stay standing. I don't have to do anything crazy. I just have to stay standing and I could win. Now, I was sponsored by a US-based black ski organization. A lot of people think black people don't ski. But there were 33 members of this organization that had sponsored me there to cheer me on. So my teammates said, Bonnie, you have a really big family, because these black people all stood out, right? But I wasn't paying attention to that. I knew I needed to concentrate and go for the gold. So I get to the point where I'm standing in the starting gate, and the race official's counting down 3, 2, 1, go. I hit the timing wand. I'm hitting the red and blue bamboo poles. I get to where I can see the finish line, and I think, I've made it. I'm over the ice. I'm going to win. And that's when I fell. I was so close. I could taste victory. And I found myself sitting on my rear end in the snow. In that moment, I just wanted to crawl away and disappear. I didn't want to have to face my teammates, my coaches, my mother. But before I could make a decision about what I would do, my training took over, and I jumped up, grabbed my equipment, and got over the finish line. When the dust cleared and they posted all the times, my time was still in 3rd place. I won a bronze medal. I got to stand on the winner's podium, the US flag waving behind me, my mother crying in the snow. But it wouldn't have happened if I had given up when things didn't look promising. Now, I think it's interesting, what got me through that moment wasn't a decision that I made, it was my training. It was the ability, without thinking, to do the right thing. And I think that's so powerful. That's a gift that you've gotten here, that your instincts will be different because of how you've been shaped in the last 4 years. In some of the toughest moments that you will have as leaders, as conveners, as decision makers, as people who impact the world, some of the most difficult decisions you make will be how you treat another person in the blink of an eye. And that will be different because you were here. You will have the instinct to get up when you fall down, not to stay down, not to hide, not to run, not to escape a difficult situation, but to get up and get over the finish line because of what you've become here, because of your training. You are the change. You are what is different in the world, what is needed in the world today. So many of the speeches have exhorted you to go out and change the world. And you will, because you are the change. You can try to change the world, but I don't think you can fail to change the world because you are the change. As I stood on the winner's podium accepting my bronze medal in that race, I thought about the woman who won the gold. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? And I realized I beat her when nothing went wrong. I had the fastest slalom. I was the best slalom skier in the world. She also fell in the second run. So she didn't beat me by not falling in the second run. She didn't beat me by being a better skier. How did she beat me? She got up faster, someone said. She won the gold medal in the world for being the quicker getter-upper. It speaks to the importance of resilience. You will go out in the world from here, and you will have a greater resilience because you carry with you the stories, the dreams, the perspectives of the world. You have the ability to be more resilient in more situations. But you also have, you will fall down. I had the privilege earlier today to sit down with some of your classmates and ask them, what should I say in my speech? And part of what they talked about was how much pressure that you do feel, that you all feel, that you have to go out and solve all the problems that we created. So I tell you, you are the change. You cannot fail to make the world better by just who you are and how you be in the world. But also know that as you go out, you will fall down and you will get up again. And sometimes you will get up fast, but sometimes it will take a season to get up. It won't always look like you are changing the world. Know that you are always changing the world by everything you do. And you'll have some seasons where you're raising children. Whether you're a woman or a man, you may leave the workforce and be raising children for a season. You may fail in a job or a project and take a little while to get back on track. You will go through many seasons. It won't always look like you are doing what we all expect you to do, but it's important to understand that you are. I wrote a whole article on the difference between looking extraordinary and being extraordinary. It's qz.com if you want to look it up. It's in the Atlantic Monthly. No, because it's an important discussion about the difference between being extraordinary and looking extraordinary. And because you have so much social media and so much pressure and so much connectedness, you often will feel that you have to solve all of these problems tomorrow. You have to be a world leader and you have to change everything. It takes time. It won't always look like you are changing the world. But even if you are full-time raising a child, you're raising that child differently because of all of your classmates will be helping to raise that child. Their thoughts, their cares, the late night conversations will be poured into that child, and they will be raised differently. If you have failed at a project, you will be learning from that project and regrouping to become the person you need to be at a later stage. You won't always look like you're changing the world, but trust me, you are. And it's important to be patient with yourself, because if you are too obsessed with looking like you are changing the world, you won't. Am I right? If you are too obsessed with looking like you are changing the world, you can't possibly do it. It's giving yourself the time to listen. It's giving yourself the time to grow, to gain the different experiences you need to put together to do what you need to do at different points in time. This vision, this incredible vision of where we are and what we're doing here was not built in a night, was not built in a year. Vision takes time and takes everything you are and everything you become to put together. So you will fall down many times and you will get up, and you will not always look as though you are doing what you promised all of these people here you would do with this education. But you are the change. You cannot help but change the world by who you are and what you have done here. So I thank you not only for coming to NYU Abu Dhabi, I thank you for leaving. One of the questions one of the students asked me today was, how do I go back? Once I've been here and had this conversation where 100 different perspectives are valued and listened to and merged, how do I go back to a place where people don't understand, people don't respect other people's small-minded views? How do I go back? What do I say to those people? And it made me realize that almost anywhere you go from here will be less diverse, will be less accepting, will be less evolved. And I heard the pain of the student telling me this. How do I leave? Forgive me if I use a biblical reference from my own framework. How do I leave the Garden of Eden and go back into the world? You're going to have to be patient with yourself and with each other. You're going to have to fall down and get up. You're not always going to look like you're making change, but have faith that you are. I want to leave you with something that a coach said to me, Warren Witherell. And he was not just a ski coach. He was a game changer. He created a school that was an innovative school like this one. It was a high school for ski racers. And prior to this high school for ski racers in the US, the United States ski team had had a difficult time keeping pace with Europe. We didn't create as many alpine Olympic winners, but since that school was created, we've had people competing in the Olympics. Michaela Schifrin, the last Olympics. It's been a training ground for champions. So when I was at the school, I got a full scholarship to go to the school. I broke my leg actually on the first day of school, my only leg. But that's another story. But while I was at the school, I would ask Warren Witherell things like, how do I wax my skis, 20 years later, I got a phone call and he asked me to come back. He was working as the headmaster of a school in Colorado at that point, starting a new school, and he asked me to come and speak at graduation. And I flew out to Denver, and I had to drive for 5 hours with him up to the mountains to get to the school. And so 20 years later, I wasn't asking him, how do I wax my skis? I was asking him, how did you create so many champions? Warren Witherell is in the Hall of Fame not only for alpine skiing, but also for water skiing. He created collegiate water ski programs, and he changed the technology of how we stand on our skis. He was such an innovator. And I wanted to know, how did you create champions, so many champions? And we had a long conversation, but I'll leave you with just one thought that he said. He said, I never built champions one at a time. I created communities of champions, because you can only push one person so far. But when you have a community of champions, they're sharing ideas and best practices, questioning each other's ideas, cheering for each other's successes, and maybe even more importantly, picking each other up when they fall down. The wonderful thing is you will leave here more connected than we ever were when we left college, so you can stay connected with your community of champions and share ideas, share your hopes and dreams, share your successes. But people today don't often enough share their failures. Share your failures with one another, because you can get strength to regroup and go back in to the conversation. And that's the only way you will change the world, is not by never falling, but by being able to fall over and over and over again and get up and go back. One of the students asked me earlier today, how did you go from college and graduate school, and then you went to work for IBM, and then you went to work for the government in economics, and then you started your own business? How did you do so many different things? And I said, you can only do what I did if you are really willing to look stupid. Most people stay in one area because they get strength and they become professional and they have their accomplishments, and they don't want to leave and go somewhere where they will start over and look stupid and make mistakes. I did. When I made those transitions, I fell down, I got back up. And so the willingness to do that is such a key part of what it will take for you to make change. So this is your community of champions, but I also want you to think about creating your own communities of champions wherever you go, because you cannot by yourself make the change that you want to make. But you can convene groups of people. You can help groups of people to connect with other parts of the world. You can help create the kinds of conversations you've had here in other places. You can't force other people to understand what you learned here, but you can help create the conditions in which they can learn the same things too. You can create communities of champions for other people that you encounter and in the places that you go. You can create the conversations that will change the world. So if I leave you with nothing else, you are the change. You can't help it. So stop stressing about it. Stop stressing about being the person that will change the world. You are. You can't help it. Know that you will not always look like you are changing the world, and yet you are. You will fall down. You will mess up. You will have to pull yourself back together and tape yourself back together. So stay in touch with your community of champions here, because they will help you do it. And they will be able to say, yeah, I did that too. Fall down, get up, build communities of champions wherever you go. And thank you. You have already changed the world.